Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
Welcome to datascience.show, where data science meets leadership. I'm Mirko. Today, Ecosystem AI. How executives structure, govern, and contract AI partnerships so scale doesn't become a liability. A short story to start. A mid-market platform rolled out a marketplace integration with a third-party recommender. Within 6 months, the partner's model started routing significant revenue through a shadow pricing decision, and worse, an audit flagged mismatched consent for a subset of users. There was a revenue dispute, regulatory exposure, and no clear clause in the contract that assigned responsibility for lineage evidence. The board wanted answers. Procurement handed a stack of bespoke emails. Legal had no agreed primitives to enforce. That mess is avoidable. It's also avoidable without rewriting every contract. Today, I'll give you a practical decision-first playbook. Classify the partnership, require a minimal set of data and IP primitives, pick commercial models that align incentives, and set operational responsibilities. By the end, you'll have board-ready KPIs and a 90-day pilot blueprint you can run next week. Let's get started. First, a framing principle. Treat partnerships as joint assets, not informal integrations. That sounds simple, but it changes the questions you ask. Instead of asking, "Can we connect?" ask, "Who can prove what happened? Who benefits, and who carries which risks?" When you make that shift, you stop negotiating line-by-line features and start negotiating enforceable primitives, allowed uses, evidence exports, telemetry, commercial triggers. Strategy before technology, from models to measurable value.
Now, classify the archetypes, because one-size governance does not fit all. 4 quick categories to use in board conversations: joint ventures or co-developed products, marketplaces and channel integrations, reseller and OEM relationships, and data co-ops or shared data platforms. Each has distinct stakes. In a joint venture, you have co-investment and shared IP expectations. Governance should include staged ownership and revenue triggers. Marketplaces are about discoverability and platform controls. Your concern there is provenance and entitlement enforcement. Resellers often need clear productization rules and margin mechanics. Data co-ops require strict lineage, consent mapping, and minimization rules. When you present a partnership, ask, "Which archetype is this? And what are the 3 executive stakes we need to own?" That immediately focuses legal, procurement, and the board.
Next, data sharing and provenance primitives, the minimum clauses I ask my teams to get before any production integration. First, allowed uses, spelled out with examples and a negative list. Second, lineage proofs, machine-readable evidence that ties outputs back to ingested datasets, versioned transforms, and model artifacts. Third, minimization and retention limits, what you keep, how long, and deletion guarantees. Fourth, evidentiary experts, signed, time-stamped export of a sample of inputs, transformations, and outputs on request for audits. Fifth, a compliance escalation pathway that names the people and SLAs for producing those exports. These are minimal, executive-friendly primitives. They don't require full access to a partner's source code, but they do require repeatable evidence and a legal acceptance that these exports are a condition of the relationship.
Let me give you negotiation language you can bring to counsel and procurement. Say this: the partner agrees to provide lineage exports sufficient to validate provenance for any contested transaction within 72 hours, including dataset identifiers, model artifact identifiers, and transformation metadata. The partner's refusal to provide such evidence constitutes a material breach triggering remediation and escrow provisions. That's short, enforceable, and board-friendly. Keep the ask narrow and time-boxed. Don't turn it into a fishing expedition. Start with the minimum evidence you need to establish who did what and when.
Model ownership and IP. This is where a lot of disputes fester. Define 3 categories up front: pre-existing IP, each party's background models and data; jointly developed artifacts, what you create together; and derivative models, commercial products built from joint artifacts. Staged ownership works well. Joint ownership of the combined artifact until a commercialization milestone. Once milestone A or revenue threshold B is achieved, ownership and revenue share rules kick in. Include explicit carve-outs for necessary operational artifacts, monitoring code, telemetry pipelines, and compliance exports, so you can operate without asking permission every time. Also make sure downstream productization rules are spelled out: who can repackage, who needs consent, and what revenue split applies. These rules prevent the "we both thought it belonged to the other" outcome.
Commercial structures. Pick the one that aligns incentives to measurable outcomes. 4 practical models: fixed revenue share, success fee tied to an agreed KPI, credit-based models for platform usage, and milestone-based payments for co-development. My recommended default: tie at least a portion of partner compensation to shared value realization, actual incremental revenue, cost savings, or measurable user engagement uplift. Structure it so both parties win when the integration creates real business value. Avoid purely volume-based fees that reward vanity metrics without quality controls, and always include a reconciliation cadence and audit rights, monthly or quarterly, so you can verify the numbers that drive payments.
Operational rules and incident responsibilities. This is where governance meets runbooks. For every integration, require a short operational matrix: who monitors what telemetry, who owns detection logic, who's first responder, and what the escalation path looks like. Define MTTR expectations for partner incidents. Ideally, a timeline for initial acknowledgement, containment, root cause analysis, and remediation. Include liability gates. If the partner fails to meet MTTR objectives repeatedly, you get temporary traffic gating or phased rollback rights. Also define human-in-the-loop escalation rights: who at the partner and who at your side can approve mitigations that affect customers. In short, name names, attach SLAs, and make the actions enforceable.
Exit, portability, and escrow. Don't pretend you won't need these. Contractually define trigger events for portability: termination for convenience, repeated SLA failures, or regulatory enforcement actions. Require escrow of critical artifacts, trained weights, data sets or proofs thereof, and a verification kit, so you can validate portability claims. Include phased rollback plans, runbook steps to detach, verify, and restore functions with clear acceptance criteria. Make sure verification criteria are machine checkable where possible: hashes, dataset manifests, and signed model metadata, so you avoid manual disputes when you need to exit the exit.
KPIs and board-ready metrics. Boards don't want long technical lists. They want measurable indicators of shared value and risk. Propose 3 to show shared value realization %, the portion of projected joint value actually realized versus target; data provenance completeness %, percentage of transactions with full lineage evidence; and partner incident MTTR, mean time to remediate partner origin incidents. Add one governance metric: percentage of partnerships covered by the standardized primitive set. These are digestible, auditable, and they tell executives whether the partnership program is delivering or creating hidden liabilities.
A short, practical 30-90-day pilot blueprint you can run next week. Day 0. Pick one high-value partner and name the archetype. Week 1, run a legal/technical sprint to agree on the minimal primitives, allowed uses, lineage exports, telemetry requirements, MTTR gates, and commercial metrics. Week 2 to 4, implement telemetry adapters, a test escrow export, and an incident simulation that exercises the runbook. Week 6, conduct a controlled go-no-go with board-level briefing material that includes the 3 KPIs I mentioned. Week 60 to 90, scale the primitives to additional partners, but only after the partner has accepted the primitive set or triggered a documented escalation to review bespoke terms. The goal is speed with guardrails. Ship the pilot, rehearse the exit, then scale deliberately.
A few negotiation lines to take to procurement and counsel. Use plain English. We require a 72-hour lineage export capability and telemetry commitments as a condition of production access. Where the partner cannot provide telemetry, they must place verification artifacts into escrow and participate in a simulated incident before go-live. And commercial triggers for joint ownership or revenue share must be pre-agreed and documented. Bespoke terms that obscure obligations are escalated to the board for approval.
These lines reduce ambiguity and keep procurement from trading off accountability for convenience.
Before I close, common risks we see and how to mitigate them. Partners will push back on standardized clauses, mitigate by starting narrow and requiring acceptance for pilot scope, with bespoke terms only allowed through an escalated review. IP disputes can stall commercialization, mitigate with staged ownership and pre-agreed commercialization rules. Limited telemetry reduces incident detection, mitigate by requiring evidence exports or escrowed verification and a mandatory incident rehearsal. These mitigations are practical and, importantly, defensible to a board.
Key takeaways. 1. Treat partnerships as joint assets and define minimum primitives before go-live. 2. Align commercial structures to measurable shared value, not vanity metrics. 3. Name operational responsibilities, require lineage evidence, and plan exits with machine-checkable verification. If you take one next step this week, pick one partner and run the 30-90-day pilot sprint. Prepare a one-page board brief with the 3 KPIs we talked about. That's executive work you can control without needing to own every line of code.
Thank you for listening. If this episode helped you clarify how to govern AI partnerships, subscribe to datascience.show for more executive playbooks. Connect on LinkedIn if you want a template one-pager for the pilot or sample contract language to take to counsel. I'll leave you with this. That's the difference between models and value.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.